Hello and welcome to Jurassic Reviews. On this episode we will be taking a look at a figure from X+. That figure is the 25cm Large Monster Series Biollante, based on the monster from the 1989 film Godzilla vs. Biollante. Before we begin, here's a very quick look at the box it comes in. Other than being very large, there's not a whole lot to it. The reason this box is really large is because this figure is as well. It stands over 12 inches tall, and is 26 inches wide. In fact, along with X+'s King Ghidorah figures, this is the largest 25cm scale figure. The large Monster Series figures are smaller in scale, so this just goes to show how massive Biollante is. I can't even imagine what she would look like in 30cm scale. Biollante is a mix of a rose, a human, and Godzilla, and is one of my favorite monsters in the whole franchise. She is such a unique looking kaiju, and this figure captures her perfectly. I believe this figure was originally released back in 2011, and this one I think is a reissue from 2016 or 2017. It may have had one or two more reissues in between. And while this is an older figure, I think it stands up there among some of X+'s best figures. I missed out on the SH Monstars Biollante a few years ago, but honestly after getting this one I don't think I really even want that one now. You really can't do much better than this as far as a Biollante figure. The sculpt really is amazing. There are so many little details on it that it's just great to look at. One thing I wasn't expecting to be so detailed looking was the head. For whatever reason, pictures online just didn't do it justice, because all of the scales found here are just so crisp and defined looking. These scales, along with all the individually sculpted teeth, just look fantastic. She may be part Godzilla, but she doesn't really resemble him at all really. Her head looks more like a crocodile. Moving away from the head though, you'll find her most Godzilla-like feature, and that is her spines going down her back. They are still very plant looking, but at the same time they do look a lot like Godzilla's dorsal plates. It's very cool looking. Along the sides here you'll also see the thorns that she has throughout her body. On her stomach you'll find the cage-like structure of vines protecting her core, which is really the only part of this figure that features a translucent material. I'm not entirely sure, but I think one of the Rick options in the past was a light-up feature here, and that would be awesome. Now let's move on to the reason this figure is a real shelf hog. The 5 vines that extend out from the body. These vines are one of her main weapons when fighting Godzilla, and they all look awesome. Each vine has a great amount of detail. You can see the thorns and veins along each of them. 4 of these vines feature mouths with sharp teeth on them. These ones are much longer. The teeth are each individually sculpted, and there's even detail in each of their mouths. It's really impressive. No corners were cut on this figure at all. The remaining vine is just a sharp point. I need to go back and look at some of the other videos and pictures on this figure out there, but I feel like I've seen this particular vine in different positions on some other people's figures, where it's more sticking out in front of the figure and not brought in close like on mine. Not sure if there was a change with the reissue or not, or maybe they're all like this and my memory is bad. It's worth mentioning that these vines are in a fixed position. You really shouldn't try bending them, even though there's a wire in each of them that allows some movement. I don't think it would take much to break one of them, so it's best just to leave them alone. There are a few visible seams on this figure, and there's a quite noticeable one on the head, but this is not a big deal, and most are well hidden. Now let's move on to the paint, which is equally impressive. The majority of the figure is green, with both darker and lighter parts to it. In other parts of the body there is some gray, and all the thorns are painted this color too. Moving to the head, the teeth are painted white, with a little bit of brown in them, and the inside of the mouth is a mix of light and dark pink, along with a little bit of black as well. The eyes on Biollante do not have pupils, and they are painted white with a slight pink tint to them. The core part on her belly is painted orange, with some yellow in there too. Each of the vines that have mouths have white teeth with some pink in them, and the inside of the mouths are also painted pink. It's a great paint job. It looks stunning. There is one point of articulation on this figure. You can open and close the jaw. It's not a very wide range of movement, but it's a cool option to have. Just don't try closing the mouth completely, you might damage it. Before I give my rating for this figure, here's a comparison with other figures. Here it is with the Godzilla 1999. Here it is with Gigan. Here it is with Destroya. Here it is with Mechagodzilla 1975. And finally, here it is with King Ghidorah 1968. For a rating out of 10, I give this one a 9.5. This is the best Biollante figure out there, and if you are a fan of the film, this is a must-have. The sculpt is wonderfully detailed, and it has an amazing paint job to match. There are a few seams, but they don't take much away from it. Keep in mind this figure is massive, and also really wide, so you need plenty of room to have her displayed. And if you do want to pick this figure up, I suggest you start looking now, as I think her availability is beginning to go down quite a bit, despite the reissues. I really need to get a Godzilla 1989 to go along with her. I highly recommend this one. And that does it for the X Plus Large Monster Series Biollante. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time.